Final day of public training camp was today against the Houston Texans in a joint practice, and I was there at practice today, so I have a ton of notes to discuss, so let's get right into it. So I essentially have a play-by-play here, just taking notes of practice throughout the day, and I'm going to go through all of them, but keep in mind, some of these could be a little off. There's a chance that I have the wrong player written down. Also, specifically, the defensive side of the ball wasn't as good as the offensive side of the ball because of the viewing point. The defense was away from us, so certain plays I just didn't see because they were happening at the same time. Others, I may have the wrong player. That's very possible. So just bear with me on some of this. But for the most part, I think we're in a really good spot with notes. Also, there was an injury scare with Graham Glasgow towards the end of practice. I don't know what that looks like now. I guess we'll just have to wait for an update. But he left at the situational drill at the end of practice. Kingsley Eguakon stepped in. He allowed a pressure on one of his pass protection reps, and it looked kind of serious with Graham. I don't know. He was on the ground for a while. It seemed like they were checking on his knee, kind of walked off. Then they were checking on him again on the opposite field. So I don't know how serious this is with Graham, but it was just unfortunate as heck because of when it happened in practice. So we'll keep an eye on an update for Graham Glasgow. Hopefully he's okay. It didn't seem great. I also saw Brad Holmes out there after Graham Glasgow went down. I don't know if that's because it was about to be the end of practice or because of the Graham injury, but he didn't seemingly look at Graham Glasgow. So I'm not sure, but it just gave me bad vibes seeing Graham Glasgow go down like that. So let's get right into this. We'll start with the 7-on-7s first. There was a lot of 7-on-7 and 11-on-11, mainly 11-on-11, but we'll start with the 7-on-7 first. We got things started with the curl route to Khalif Raymond. One of the biggest takeaways for me, having not been there in weeks to training camp, is seeing how involved Khalif Raymond was with the first team offense. I didn't expect to see that. He was super involved with the first team offense. He got the ball a ton, was used in a variety of different ways, underneath routes, vertical shots over top, red zone packages. He's on the field a lot. So the idea that he might be on a bubble is not true. This guy is going to make the team, and he's a very significant part of this team. He had one drop today on what probably would have been about a 40-yard touchdown. He could have ran it in. But outside of that, he had a really strong day, and he got us started here with a quick curl route caught on Kamari Lassiter. Then we saw Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely burn Christian Harris on an angle route from the running back position. This was red zone, I believe, working in 7-on-7s here. We saw St. Brown run a really nice whip route on Derek Stingley one-on-one to have success there. And then we had Jameson Williams, who had a drop. He beat Derek Stingley late. I believe it was in the back of the end zone, or in front of the end zone. He ended up just dropping the pass. The fans were kind of on him for that first drop. I mean, he ended up having a fine day, but he just had a drop very early. The positive is he did get himself open. And then we also saw St. Brown score the very next play on a late dig in the back of the end zone. Cornerback MJ Stewart. Lions seemingly had some success working on MJ Stewart today. And then the very next play, Goff threw like a comeback route towards the front pylon, and it was going to be intercepted by Derek Stingley. He was standing right in front of it. I believe he may have had someone else on the opposite side of the field as a check down option, but he kind of forced this one. And Goff is throwing with a ton of anticipation. This is one of those examples where Stingley just undercut it. He stood there, and St. Brown became the defensive back and knocked it away, kind of saved the day, got us out of the drill without an interception. I don't think Goff threw any interceptions today. He had a couple that could have been, but I don't think he actually threw any today. We get the second team offense then. Same kind of look here. It starts off with a beautiful throw by Kyle Allen. He works right over top of the linebackers, drops it in the bucket to Isaac Tesla, kind of goes up, high points it with the defender on his back to score a touchdown immediately. They come right back to him with a drag route. He's running away from guys, has a pretty nice gain, and then they finish it off with a little check down. And it was a very contested check down. It seemed like they had kind of a creative, rub route that was set up with Vaki releasing out of the backfield and kind of working back inside. And he actually opened up wide open, but it seemed like Kyle didn't really feel it or see it, so he ended up just checking it down elsewhere. They probably got 2 or 3 yards, but nothing after the catch. It seemed like he kind of missed that. Then we got to see Hendon Hooker, and while Kyle Allen is clearly the number 2 quarterback right now, it wasn't a bad day for Hendon Hooker overall. It started off pretty positive as well. He got the thing started with a nice hammer route concept, right? You have to kind of sit down, you run the dig behind it. Threw that to Jackson Meeks, had a touchdown to get things started. Then they also had a touchdown in the back of the end zone to Lovett. This one, I believe, came in pretty late here, but Lovett was just screaming across, the back end line, and he ends up kind of toe tapping. I wasn't even sure if he got his feet down or not. I just assumed he did by the reaction, but if he did, that was a fantastic grab over his head. Really nice ball placement, and then immediately they went to a quick flat route. This ball is out much faster. Zach Horton walking in for a touchdown for about 3 yards out. So very good start for Hendon Hooker. Now let's go on to some of the 11 and 11 notes. And again, these are really in no order here. We have some defense and offense. I just kind of separated them, so I'm just going to go straight down the list. Again, these things are not in exact order, but that doesn't really matter. So we'll start off first, 11 on 11 drills. You get Amon-Ra St. Brown out of an empty package. I was trying to keep an eye on what different packages we used. They came out empty on first down, threw a quick little out route to St. Brown, MJ Stewart in coverage. That had success. And then they ran a nice bubble play to Khalif Raymond, and we've seen this in the preseason. Now we're seeing it in joint practice. I expect to see this now during the regular season. And again, it was Khalif Raymond utilizing his ability with the ball in his hands. Seemed like this was a huge part of his game. Like they trusted him in the red zone as kind of a back end option, like the third progression. And they also, because he would get open and he has good hands, and they trusted him after the catch. So here it seemed like there was a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage. They kind of got themselves into this call. And then I believe they motioned, they kind of like loop motion behind Jared Goff's bubble route over to Khalif Raymond that had success on the very next play. I love seeing that creativity and letting him just go run. Plus, asking your receivers to block, which they've done a really nice job of. I mean, we had another touchdown later in this day by Khalif Raymond that you see guys just blocking downfield. St. Brown is latched, and he's just kind of pushing this guy out of the play. So beautiful to see that, but they're definitely using the ability of him with the ball in his hands. You got a medium run by Jahmyr Gibbs working behind the left side of that offensive line. Then the very next throw was really nice. They seemingly went to some sort of quarters look. Goff kind of stepped up in the pocket. There seemed to be some pressure there. They definitely can get after it, and they did a few times. And this one hit just kind of that deep dig, just clear out, deep dig, pull left the next play. That thing was shut down. Pulling left, they didn't gain, I don't think, anything on that play. If anything, they probably lost yards. And then an incomplete late over the middle to St. Brown. A few times we had to hold a ball a little bit long there. Incomplete over the middle, broken up, and ultimately they did throw a flag, and I believe that flag ultimately was on the offense here. And then we got another quarters look defensively, and this was Jalen Petrie. I believe it was Petrie underneath, who ended up breaking up Jamison Williams, who ran like some sort of like underneath kind of like angle route. He just broke it up at the point of attack there, and it was just really strong coverage. And again, it would have been for many yards. And then that's when they ended up scoring the touchdown. So again, these are not in specific order here. This is later towards practice. They ended up scoring a touchdown 11 on 11s with Khalif Raymond. They essentially just ran some clear outs. It almost looks like a straight clear out, set up the screen underneath. We've done this in the past on 3rd and long, and we've used Khalif for it in the past. And they used Khalif into the flat. We got 2 blocks in front. Saint was one of them. Made a nasty cut inside and just took off to the end zone. The coaches were fired up. That is something I remember the Lions doing a lot, especially on 3rd and long, like when they first got started here, that 2021 season when they didn't have the pass protection or maybe the vertical weapons. So they just did everything underneath, and they kind of just try to create screens. It wasn't always that successful, but this took me back to that kind with its own little wrinkle of how they use it. But it's definitely something that John Morton could have seen on film and said, I like this. I'm going to utilize this. And in this case, it played out very well and ended up having Khalif run into the end zone. Blown block. I think it was Dan Skipper on the right side. He kind of lost his block. It ended up being a short run to the left side of the field. Then Tim Patrick. It's great to see Tim Patrick out there. He had a fantastic grab work in the middle of the field. I love watching this dude, man. Aki then bounced a really nice run, got a pressed inside, bounced outside the left sideline, picked up about 7 yards. Then we ran a quick speed out route. This is a really good read by Kyle Allen at the line of scrimmage. Recognized the off coverage. I believe it was to the field side. Typically, that's what you would get, and he just fired it over there to Tesla. Had a nice medium gain working towards the sideline. Good ball placement, good timing there. Craig then had a short little run. Then to me, what was a great play design to Tim Patrick, he just dropped it. And this was one of the biggest schematic things that stuck out to me was the way they made the run look like the pass. So typically we'll see the Lions, utilize their receivers in a run game where they'll bring them in the box. They'll bring them inside the line of scrimmage, and they'll step through and they'll pick up a linebacker, or they'll jar out a safety, right? We've seen them do that, right between the tight end and the tackle, things like that. In this case, they did it with Tim Patrick, but instead of having him block, he stepped through, and then he ultimately broke into an in-breaker. Now, the timing was a little bit weird. They were kind of stumbling over each other, but Tim Patrick was wide open, and he threw it at him, and he dropped it, and he was wide open. I mean, that was an amazing play design. It was super crafty. Love seeing that run pass really married together. The other element that John Morton showcased was jumbo package, which is 6 offensive linemen, but specifically an overloaded jumbo package, where in this case, we would put Dan Skipper at right tackle, and we'd slide Penei Sewell over to the left side. So now you're looking at, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Christian Mahogany, and then Graham Glasgow at that time. And they would run behind that left side. The first time it was a mess. They went behind that way. Decker missed the block, and it was just shut down. The next time it was very successful, and I believe it popped for a big run. So we saw both sides of it, but we saw them use him multiple times. We had Horton with a good split zone block. I like watching him. He was working at fullback, split zone, kind of cleared it out. We picked up a medium gain off a cutback. And then we had a wheel setup versus man coverage, and ultimately Hendon Hooker just kind of fired it away at this point. And that was very understandable. Nothing really opened up on that play, but they were trying to set up a wheel route. It looked like out of the backfield to, I think it was like Sailors, who was running on the backside. Just nothing open there. Good coverage. Let's go to the defense side of the ball now. And I'm going to fly through this because, again, some of these notes don't actually have players involved. It's just kind of the result, which isn't great. That's not great to talk about. So check down Kirby interception on the second play that I had here defensively. Kirby Joseph ended up coming away with an interception. So fantastic start. I believe this was also repping 7-on-7s defensively here. So Kirby intercepts the second play when we're working 7-on-7s. He also came by the stands later in practice, gave a wave to the crowd. He was kind of in and out, working with the trainer off to the side, but it seems like it's definitely trending in a positive direction. Seems to have a very positive attitude. The next play was this where things got really good for me. They took a shot over top. Amik Robertson in coverage. Jalen Knoll had a step, but he overthrew it, missed him over top. It was incomplete. Lions did contest some things and potentially even threw off some timing. But really what stood out to me is our defensive line didn't feel overly dominant consistently, which was a little bit disappointing against that O-line that's kind of trying to figure things out with young guys. But I also felt that their offense was playing very fast in the sense that that ball was not being held on to very long at all. That's something that I noticed as we got into 11-on-11s. But this was a shot play to Knoll, incomplete. Amik Robertson was kind of trailing him in coverage there. Alex Anzalone, one of the standouts on defense for me, as well as specifically DJ Reed. Those two guys were awesome on defense. Alex Anzalone was breaking up passes, shutting things down underneath. He shuts down an out route, for an underneath kind of a short gain, and then he stuffs a check down. They check it down. He's all over top of it. I think he may have had like one pass breakup, but most part, it was just shutting things down underneath, really limiting any kind of run after catch opportunities. He was flying around in coverage today. They weren't perfect. Their tight ends got us a couple times over top, especially like red zone, high red zone. But he was flying everywhere, and he was one of the most noticeable players. Ended up running a flat route, kind of got a short gain there. Nico Collins scored a touchdown working through there. We also saw Alan George give up kind of a corner route late. He contested it, but it was a really good contest, but it was a great catch. They ended up scoring a touchdown kind of the back right of the end zone. And then we got a cover stop by Trevor Nowaski, and it forced Davis Mills to kind of scramble out of the play. For me, and this was the big thing, Trevor Nowaski had this twice where he ended up one time, I think he covered up a bootleg, and he jumped in front of it, took it away. And another time he's covering things underneath, and there's nowhere to go, and the quarterback would have to take off. That happened a few times today. Trevor Nowaski, from the notes that I have, seemingly had a pretty positive day, picking up some of the movement up front. At very least, seems like Miami was a very good prep for getting a lot of misdirection. So let's get to these 11-on-11s defensively. Let's jump right into it. First things first, getting a incomplete out route. It was Alex Anzalone working in coverage again. It was incomplete. He was contesting it. DJ Reed with a pass breakup on a drag route working to Nico Collins. Well contested, kind of riding in his hip there. We also saw an incomplete pass in front. DJ Reed working in coverage once again. He was the other standout to me defensively. Those two, not perfect, but man, DJ Reed was in the action a lot, and he was, to me, seemingly the most consistent player. When the ball was thrown his way, it's not going to be a catch. DJ Reed was all over the place. He was awesome today. DJ Reed really stood out, and I don't think I've seen him at practice yet, so this is pretty cool. DJ Reed and Alex were the two standouts for me defensively there. Then they end up trying to take a shot play to Nico Collins over top, where safety gets over. Terrion's in coverage, just Nico Collins, and it falls incomplete. Terrion high point contested. He's talking his trash after the play. Well covered. Really good working together on that play too. Ball was out pretty quickly over top there, and they covered it up really well. They ran a swing pattern, had a good gain here. They had a couple of these plays break, especially later in practice. Things that were just kind of laterally swinging out to the flat, get it outside. Maybe the toss play, like those kind of things did break a little bit as practice went on, which is something to monitor. So they had a swing pass that had to end up having a good gain. They ended up having a cutback run that Davenport, I believe, shut down to a very minimal run, and outside zone stuff for only about 2 more yards. So we get to the second team units. They had a handoff that bounced outside, picked up a big run. I think specifically the second and third unit allowed more of the bigger runs defensively, or really just the second unit, more of the bigger runs defensively, things that were getting outside of us a little bit. Trevor had great coverage on that boot flat, as I talked about. They worked the boot. Here comes the flat. He stepped in front of it, and he did great because he knew it was coming. So he was in front of it, and he had to kind of like redirect himself and find the tight end rolling underneath, and he ended up finding him and taking it away, and the ball just wasn't thrown when Trevor Nowaski did that. So I love to see that awareness growth, being very comfortable playing on the line of scrimmage as well. We also saw Barku get an interception here. I'm pretty sure this ball just hit the receiver directly in the face mask, and Barku picked it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a clip that says otherwise. I'm pretty sure it was like an in-breaker. Threw it right at his receiver's face mask. It smacked him in the face, got tipped up in the air. Barku standing behind it on top as a cornerback, and he ends up picking it off and running the other direction. And big toss back to that left side again. They broke a couple of runs against that second unit. And we saw this in the preseason too, where they got outside of Al-Quadi Muhammad the one time. They broke it for a nice gain. Stewart had to go track it down. That's happened a couple of times. They ended up scoring a touchdown. Tyson Russell and then an incomplete pass with Kennedy kind of trailing in coverage. Now, there was also some one-on-ones going on between the O-line, and I only got a couple of these reps. It was, first off, Penny Sewell getting beat on the very first rep by Will Anderson, kind of got the edge on him very quickly. Then Graham Glasgow with a nice win on the interior, kind of re-anchored himself, settled himself in, handled business. Taylor Decker kind of just chased Daniil Hunter outside, but that may have been flat enough to actually get some real pressure on the quarterback. It was quick. He kind of just rolled him out of the pocket, but it was very quick. And then we saw KO'd Heaven Anchor. Those are the 4 reps that I got from that drill, so I thought I'd just throw it in here. 11 on 11. So again, here, let's get back to it. Getting things started. This is like a perfect drive starter. Outside of running the ball, quick spot route, hit St. Brown, got things going. Then they had the wheel route. And to me, Goff throwing with great anticipation. He did miss, and there was a couple opportunities to take the football away, but he is throwing the ball and ripping it with confidence right now. It's very noticeable. There's an aggression to his style. He tried to no-look a guy, and he threw it right at the safety, and it was about picked off. But he tried to look it off and squeezing in there. He is fitting some tight windows, red zone specifically, back of the end zone. He's firing some passes in there. He's throwing things before he sees them break it all, which is why the Saint one was almost picked early, but that's also life, right? You trust the receiver to get open, and he's made some beautiful passes today, and this was one where he did miss. They had Khalif kind of working out of the slot, wheeling it around. They had a little bit of a pick play. He had a step. It was incomplete just by a little bit over top there. But again, you're seeing how much Khalif is being utilized in this offense, specifically with his ability to just take off and run. They had a quick out route. They brought a slot blitz. Hit Sam Laporta. On to the Tuesday. I believe we had a sack here. Giovanni Manu, I think, allowed a sack to get things started. Having a broken play. Found Tom Kennedy late, which was nice. They ended up calling, I think, a hold on the defense there. Sailors had a short run, and then ultimately they ended up getting another sack there through that second team offensive line. Let's go back to the first, though. Let's get some more positives, I guess, in here. And it's Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs picked it up towards the end of practice. He started to cook. And we get things started with a nice outside left, good gain on the play. He broke a couple towards the outside where he was just patient. He took off, and he got the corner on guys a few times. We did, I think, muff a snap. I think that's what happened. The ball, twice this happened where the ball was just on the ground. And I was like, I don't know what happened pre-snap because I was trying to watch both sides. My belief would be, because you're not supposed to hit the quarterbacks, is that it was just some sort of muff snap. I think that's what happened here. They ended up, though, coming back with a Jameson Williams dig route and then a drag that ended up having a big gain. So you can see that he kind of got things rolling a little bit. Nice dig route over the middle of the field, and then also having just a crosser where he's running away from people. So we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who ran an out route on a play action setup. This thing was covered well, seemingly, but you could see that he was holding on to St. They ended up throwing a flag. I'm glad they did. This thing was really tightly contested, and you can see some of these setups just from seeing the lines a lot. You kind of know where the ball's supposed to be going, and you could see it set up to go to St. just trusting in the one-on-one. This time he got held a little bit, so they called a defensive pass interference there. Then we saw Gibbs. They kind of just ran him out of the backfield, a quick little hitch underneath. He ended up having a nice little completion, had a couple little completions out of the backfield. I'm still not seeing a lot of that two-back stuff. I don't know if they're just not showing it. I'm just not really seeing it. Jumbo play, and that's when it was the blown block. Decker missed the second level. They ended up just having nothing on the play, and that's when Jameson Williams ended the drill. So I guess this was his drill with the deep corner route, got behind the safety and the cornerback over top, hit him on that front pylon, scooping grab touchdown. It was fantastic, and it was like the first, I think, like, oh, that's the big play. Like, that was the first one that got everybody standing and cheering. That one was exciting. That thing kind of broke things loose for the offense specifically. Second team gets out there, a couple of short runs there, and then they ended up hitting Lovett with a touchdown run after catch here. And this was kind of a deep in route. It was a really good ball. This was Hendon Hooker. He threw a really good pass here. He threw a strike over the middle, good time in the pocket. And like I said, he can read the field. He read it well, fired it to Lovett, put in a really good spot. Lovett caught it, and then he just did what Lovett did. He just got out, and he did the same thing on kick return. He probably had the best kick return today, and a lot of it was himself because he went away from the blocking scheme and just got about to midfield. He just gets upfield fast, and I do like that element of his game. Here he got out quickly, and when this ball was in a good spot to catch and run, he took off. He ended up scoring up a touchdown once he picked up a block from his wide receiver. Ended up hitting them a wham run, which popped for about like 13 more yards to Jacob Sailors, and I always love the whams, the trap schemes. Those things are always going to pop, especially teams like this that are aggressive upfield. You let them through, and you step in, you pick up the backers. Now you're just off to the races, and we implemented it. It makes me excited because that feels like Hank Fraley, right? It really does. Like the run scheme feels very similar. Occasionally we'd use the wham and the trap runs with Ben. It feels like that's the Hank Fraley effect of like, hey, the run scheme isn't really changing, right? We still have a lot of these things here, and that was a good example of it. Maybe someone wrinkles in how we line up, but that was something that the Lions had used in the past, and it made them so versatile. And obviously you see a run like that pop, and it takes you back a little bit. We had a scramble in the next play for no yard. Really nowhere to go with the football. You could see Tim Patrick got kind of held up at the top of the route, didn't really separate, so he just ran out of bounds on that play. Understandable. Short run by Craig Reynolds, and then Lovett ended up winning on a slant. Just a quick slant, created a ton of separation on the quick slant, ended up picking up a nice gain on the play. Let's go to the defense now, mixing Rocky Sin in at safety for Kirby Joseph at this time. Derek Barnes with the run stuff to get things started. Derek Barnes, another guy we kind of haven't talked about through camp because we haven't seen him in the preseason, but we know he's going to be a huge part of this team. He stuffs things. Very next play, we had Alex Anzalone come off a blitz here. They had a late completion on Terran Arnold, kind of worked like a deep comeback, but I believe this could have been a sack on the play when they brought Alex Anzalone, so I don't know that this would have actually stood up. Regardless, they had like a deep comeback late on the play on Terran Arnold. They created a lot of space, but it was a broken play at that point. Then they had a boot play, which this has been the biggest positive for me, has been the communication in the back end. They've clearly worked it. Linebackers have seemingly had some breakdowns, but between safeties and cornerbacks, they've been really strong. This was a great example. Terrian had a good one. Branch had a good one right here where they worked this bootleg. Here comes the deep crosser, and you just see Branch step in front of it, and he just takes it away, and you can watch it in live time. Like, oh, there's nothing there. And he took it away. There's nowhere to go with the football, and ultimately, I think it fell incomplete on the play. It's fantastic to see that kind of communication. Twos get out there, throw an incomplete pass, Avonte Madison coverage, kind of working an over route, and then a late broken play, which was kind of just another deep comeback route. Play got broken a little bit, ended up having a big completion on the play. Going back to the first team here, I think this when the Texans picked it up, specifically Nico Collins got things started, ran like a nice post route. He ends up beating Amik Robertson for a big gain. Then they hit Nico Collins on the drag route, kind of just running away from the coverage. Then DJ Reed came back and he said, okay, I'm going to get a pass breakup, which again, he was the standout today defensively for me specifically. They then blitzed again, and you could see this where like, oh, they're being very aggressive. I don't know if this is like, we just want to crank it up and see what it looks like. They were very aggressive, and this got them into trouble. The blitz allowed this huge crossing route. They were kind of just chasing in coverage, picked up a very big gain. Staying with the first team defense here, again, Rocky Singh kind of mixing in at safety a bit. They went to an outside zone. Campbell kind of gave up the outside zone on the play, kind of got caught inside. He ended up breaking it to the edge. DJ Reed had to step down, so it was a nice little gain. Then hit the quick flat route for a nice little gain as well. Then again, DJ Reed, a pass breakup on a curl route. Again, this dude was all over. I mean, dude, he's breaking up a lot of passes just based on what I'm reading in my notes. Amik Robertson then had the interception. They ran a deep crosser. I guess it's similar to the pick that we had against Houston last year, a deep crossing route, and Amik Robertson just kept working on the play. Going on to kind of the next look here, the next unit, they had a run that went nowhere. I think it was Pat O'Connor that ended up shutting the play down, just a run that went, it was Pat O'Connor based on the notes that I have here. Then they threw a tunnel screen for a medium gain, and then it was Avonte Maddox who gave up kind of a big, deep dig route. Hit it then a corner route. Grant Stewart, their tight ends, kind of got involved. This was the area that we did give up some things. Grant Stewart in coverage here picked up a very big gain on the play. They took a shot play that was incomplete. They had a big run breaking out to that left side again. I don't know why that was such an issue today. I kind of wish I did, but it was an issue that we were allowing some of those. They got away from Tyson Russell, picked up a big game, kind of just working crossing route. We stuffed the next run in the inside, which is a positive, that backup interior. An out route completion on Alan George. He seemed to contest things pretty well. This was a completion that he allowed here. And then a good run stop by Ian Kennelly. And then I think Uku finished off the drive with a sack. So it was nice to see that defensive front come through here. DJ Miller was another guy that I noted. He kind of bounced back, showed a lot of mental toughness today. Let's go back to the offense, though, because now we get to the red zone 11-on-11 work. And it started off with the tight end screen that just fell incomplete. Didn't happen there. Mahogany kind of lost the block. They picked up a couple of yards. Firing it to Khalif Raymond in the end zone. Again, we're working 11-on-11 here in the red zone, and Khalif was completely walled off. There was nowhere to throw the ball. It just fell incomplete in front of him. So you can see the defense did their thing there to get things started, and then we tried again to overload, and this time it did pop. We overloaded it heavy on the left side for that offense line. Monty ended up popping, kind of this heavy, seemingly duo run to the left. Patient kind of jumped back inside, scored a touchdown. We get the second unit out there. Tim Patrick makes a really nice grab. I believe this was another one of those in-breakers here. Then there was a fumble. I don't know how this happened. I'm not sure if they hit the quarterback or what. I think they may have. Skipper, I think, was like on the ground, so I think Skipper lost his block here, and then a short run. We go back to the one-on-ones here. Let's stick with the one-on-ones here now. Gibbs started to kind of take over in my eyes, right? He had this wide right touchdown where it looked like just kind of a stretch play, turns the corner, and just takes off. He's off to the races. We're about 25 yards down, just takes off to the races. Then we get him the ball at the very next play, and he ends up being patient inside, bounces it left side, kind of just wraps the whole defense, which was crazy. Picked up like 20 yards on the very next play. Mahogany was heated with the defense player. They kind of got into it. So back-to-back runs were nasty, and then that set them up for a great play action setup. Defensive back coming from the opposite side. St. Brown just kind of ripped it over the middle to him. Beautiful, great play action setup after being able to run the ball like that. And then that's when he threw kind of his no look, and it almost got picked off. He threw it right at the safety, but I liked it. It was like another one of those deep back of the end zone in breakers. Goff tried to just look to his right and fired over the middle, and the safety stood there, and it hit him right in the hands. But because he was no looking at, he probably did drop it because he didn't expect the ball to be coming. So into the second unit, we had a stuff run, a throwaway on the next play. Sailors ended up picking up a few yards, and then we ended up finding, and this was the big play for me for Hendon Hooker. This was the big positive on the day. These are kind of things that people won't really get excited about, but I was. He ends up running a rollout from about, the 3-yard line. And on this rollout after the short yard run, he has Zach Horton, who's running a chip, and then he's working into the flat. And this is the thing that in 2 preseason games ago, he didn't throw this pass. He just ran into the sack. This time, as he's rolling out, nothing open downfield, and he found Horton, who was late, kind of just leaking out the backside. He just flipped it off to Horton, and Horton ended up having a couple of yards getting upfield here. I don't know if he scored or not, but I think he got a couple of yards at least. Maybe he did score. Point is, that was awesome because that's something that Hendon Hooker didn't even see seemingly a couple of weeks ago. This time he was patient, let it set up, and he found this all the way back progression, just Horton standing in, kind of delaying out, and then finding that completion. At least to me, it showed some growth, and I definitely appreciated that play that he ended up making there. Back to the first team offense here. A check down on a play action to Gibbs to get things started. A little misdirection run for a couple yards. We then threw an out pattern to Sam Laporta, who dropped the pass. It was right in his chest, dropped it on third down. It's contested well, but he threw it to the sticks and he dropped it. Tom Kennedy hit a nice little whip route outside in, which was cool to see. Then it had a high pass that just fell incomplete, working to Isaac Tesla. A dig route over in the middle that they missed kind of in front of Isaac Tesla with a little bit of pressure on the play. And that's when they threw a tunnel screen that punched it in for a touchdown. They ended up breaking like a 20-plus yard tunnel screen. This seemingly, after a couple of missed passes, was a good setup by Kyle Allen, kind of recognized the blitz coming, checked into seemingly a bubble screen or a tunnel screen, I should say, and this hit Tom Kennedy, and he took off. I guess Tom Kennedy was rolling a little bit today, and he ended up scoring a touchdown there. Back to the ones here. Porta with a nice little under route, picked up about 10 yards. Then they end up going to Gibbs. His run gets blown up. They hit a corner route to Sam Laporta on a massive gain. This was nice because they went one-on-one. Petrie lined up with Sam Laporta, got in his hip, and he just created just enough separation. Ended up having a massive game working on Jalen Petrie. Then they went to David Montgomery, who had a short little run. Defense back kind of stepped in, shut it down on the play. This late dig route in the back of the end zone scored a touchdown. Again, Khalil Prim being used everywhere. Clutch touchdown in that spot. Now we go to the red zone 11-on-11 defense, and start off with Brian Brandt stuffing a run for a short yard gain. Our defense back getting into it. Another run stuff on the very next play, and then DJ Reader getting some pressure, but what turned into a touchdown. It was kind of a corner route. Terran Arnold was chasing this time. They got away from him, scored a touchdown. Another run stop for 2 yards. They went outside run, now working with the second team. Al-Quadi Muhammad ended up getting that run stop, and then Zach Cunningham came to life a little bit. He ended up having great coverage on the end zone, incomplete pass. He had a couple of these plays late that I noted. Going back to the first team here, they ran a corner route, which Alex got beat this time. Remember, they ran a wheel route where I don't even think the running back was covered. I think it was Derek Barnes. Nobody actually went out there and covered him. They scored a touchdown. This is where things broke a little bit loose with that second level. Like I said, they got attacked a little bit at this point. Then Aiden Hudson, you kind of felt his presence. He ended up getting a sack there. And then the very next play, Alex broke up kind of a flat round underneath. So I guess he got his get back a little bit there specifically. He went back to the second. They just kind of ran away from DJ Miller on a crossing route. Had a lead run that was stuffed. And then it was a 4th down and goal. And it was Lawrence Strickland who was beat by a tight end for a touchdown. So their tight ends were doing a little bit of work. These were the last 11-on-11s before we went situationally here. Terrion Arnold got beat by Nico Collins on a quick skinny post on a play action set. Created a ton of separation. Picked up a first down plus more there. Then a quick hitch. Alex was on it quickly, shut it down. A short run underneath, had a nice little gain, a little medium gain. Then a great pickup by Terrion Arnold. His example of him seeing the crosser, stepping down, jumping in front of it. He took it away, forced a scramble, and a bootleg that I thought got a lot more yards, but seemingly didn't pick up that many yards at all. They then check it out underneath. Brian Branch blows it up, picks up 3 yards. Great coverage on the play, forced the play to go out of bounds. Reader got a little bit of pressure late on there. It seemed like he was pretty good pass protection actually on that point. And then to kind of wrap things up, it was Tylik Williams in the backfield. Aiden Hudson put a spin move, left tackle, I should say. Second team got out there, gave up a big run, cover 3. They ran a quick out route, which is the opening. Grant Stewart kind of chased it down out of bounds, picked up a medium gain there. Then they ran a screen. It was blown up by Zach Cunningham. So again, we started to feel his presence a little bit there. Then Zach tipped a pass over the middle of the field that I think was still caught. They ran like a seam route behind him. Zach did a good job. He got into the lane, tipped it up, and I'm pretty sure that he still caught it off the tip, which is disappointing. They then threw a fade route, which they said was incomplete on DJ Miller. And after saying that, I thought it was a touchdown. They went right back at him, and DJ Miller responded, broke up a pass, fell incomplete. He was fired up. DJ Miller, I thought, had a good last preseason game, and special teams working there. Grant Stewart fumbled the kick return. Dominic Lovett, to me, had the best return. Situational drills to wrap things up. And this is where Goff shined, to me specifically. He ran this mesh pattern, had Khalil Freeman wide open. He dropped it. Probably would have scored a touchdown to get things started. Situation was on 39-yard line, 1:03, a couple of timeouts. I think they had 2 timeouts. Maybe it was just one. And they had to go score from there. Obviously, a field goal touchdown could go take the lead. And that would have taken the lead. He dropped it. Very next play, it's St. Brown on a nasty out route. I don't even think he saw St. Brown running this out route because of the pressure in his face. And he delivered an absolute dime to St. Hurry up to the line of scrimmage. Hit a quick out on the opposite side to St. Brown for about 5 yards. At that point, they called their timeout. They had 38 seconds from the 45-yard line going into the end zone here. And this one, he hit a late drag to Khalif again. I don't know that he even saw this route. Very late, pressure collapsing, put put the ball in Khalid Freeman's chest. But unfortunately, that's where Graham got hurt, and that's when Kingsley Eguakon stepped in. They then hit a great pass to Sam Laporta, working the deep corner route. With 14 seconds, they spiked it. Goff then went to the end zone to try to see if they could put one in away from the defender. It was just incomplete there, but it was where only his guy could get it. They kicked the field goal, they made it, and then the defense got onto the field there, and the defense did, I think, a solid job. Keith Cooper was out there repping with the ones, which shocked me, but he was, and he was working on the sub package rush. But this is where the Lions are at. Again, this is the reason Za'Darius has an obvious fit. It's because these situations in sub package, who is going to give you pass rush presence? That's what the Lions are trying to figure out. This isn't about playing the run. To me, Keith Cooper is a better D end, but as a true pass rush piece on sub packages, somebody's got to step up. And they gave Keith Cooper a look first. He ended up scrambling on the very first play for about 5 yards. Then the next play up, Jack Campbell breaks up a flat route and it puts you in a 3rd down and 5. This is where DJ Reed ended up getting beat late on the play for an in-breaker. They end up picking up a big first down. They call timeout. Then they run a corner route, DJ Reed in coverage. It looked like it was going to be a big game, but they called it out of bounds on the left sideline, so it ended up being a 2nd down now. Then they ran an out route. This was fantastic coverage by Meek Robertson, and now it's 3rd down, and then they run an out route, and Terron Arnold's in coverage, but it wasn't that Terron really did anything. The ball was on him quickly, off his hands, incomplete, and they sent up the field goal unit, and they ended up making their field goal from a long range. I mean, this had to be 50-plus yards here. He made the field goal from, just kind of snuck it in, and that's how the situation ended. That's how the practice ended. So I know there was a lot there. The defense stylistically, schematically looks very similar to years past. That's the big takeaway, but the offense, a little bit of wrinkles, a lot of the same things, rushing the ball, some real creativity to it. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.